Good day, everyone. So again, my name is Jonathan David Dela Cruz, and this is still Field Study 1. So for this week, we'll be going to talk about the last three lessons that we'll be discussing. Now, again, take note that our discussion is not a detailed discussion because prior to taking field study, you should have taken other professional education courses that are important or pertinent to this course. Now we'll be talking about the teacher as a as a person and as a professional. And then for the lesson 15, we'll be talking about towards teacher quality, local teacher of the 21st century. And for the last episode or the last lesson is on teacher's philosophy of education. Okay? So for this week, we will be talking about all these three. Okay, so let's jump right into our first discussion. So the first discussion is about the 14th lesson, and that is the teacher as a person and as a professional. So as you can see in front of the screen is the my teacher, my hero. My teacher, my hero is a very known phrase because we actually call teachers as heroes of the modern times because we are battling ignorance, no? And to be a teacher requires a lot of a personal and professional qualities. Being a teacher is not that easy that a lot of people really think about. No, but of course, all professions, all jobs have different levels of difficulty and challenges. As teachers, we also face a lot of difficulties and challenges. And we are also required with a lot of personal qualities and professional competencies. So, allow me to share to you some of the personal qualities of a teacher and its description that we should have as part of the field study. Okay, so personal qualities and what the teacher is and does. Okay, number one, first is lives with dignity that exemplifies self respect, integrity, and self discipline. This teacher is honest, has integrity, self respect, and self discipline. Likewise, respected by students, peers, and the community. As teachers, we are actually um, person or people of authority. And now, being a person or people of authority requires us also to have self-respect, integrity, and self-discipline on ourselves for us to have the respect of our students, of our colleagues, fellow teachers, and the community. Now, if you try to look at the lives of different teachers and philosophers in the ancient times, even the educators in the ancient times, natural philosophers, um, they are actually very respected by the community because of the wisdom and knowledge that they have. But apart from that, because of their self respect, integrity, and self discipline. Next is takes care of one's physical, emotional, and mental well-being. This is quite difficult. Like this teacher is physically, emotionally, and mentally healthy, clean and neat, dresses appropriately, and pleasant in words and in action. This is actually quite difficult because teaching is a very emotional job. I attended a seminar. A professor from University of Glasgow said that teaching is a very emotional job. There are times that when you actually teach your students and they nod and they get what you're teaching, somehow you're happy. But at the same time, when you're teaching and then you can see in the eyes of your students and learners that there are confusions in their eyes, so you'd like be disappointed in yourself. Like you'd be questioning that I really did my best to teach them. That's one of the sides of becoming of teaching profession as very emotional job. Of course, also mentally um, it's also mentally draining as well, and it has a mental requirement. As a teacher, you should master your content. You should be ready whenever the students ask, and in the previous structure of education, since teachers are the sole sources of knowledge, we are only supposed to be one book ahead than our students. But because in the 21st century, we are already the facilitators of knowledge, therefore, we have to be three, four, five, six books or even information ahead from our students because the information that we have might be obsolete. So, as teachers, we must keep ourselves updated. And then the other one is physical. So, it's actually quite difficult for teachers to find time to be physically healthy, but teachers, we should really find time to be one, especially in this time of pandemic. Being an educator is quite stressful because we are facing the screen. Of course, to the learners that are facing the screen, um, it's very very physically draining, but because we're sitting, there's a study that in an office, what's the most deadly thing? Actually, most deadly thing is the chair, because our body is actually not created to sit for 8 hours. Our body is created to, or our body is um, created to function daily, to perform mobilities, walking, and other physical activities. And because we are in an online platform, teachers, we are really encouraged to be physically healthy. So we should try to be physically healthy. Okay. And of course, to our learners as well. So these are some personal quality. First is live with dignity and exemplify self-respect, integrity, and self-discipline, and then followed by takes care of one's physical, emotional, and mental well-being. And third personal qualities of a teacher that should have is lives a life inspired by spiritual principles and beliefs. These teacher behaves according to the personal spiritual beliefs that are not contrary to the norms, mores, and tradition of the community. Again, these are encouraged personal qualities that a teacher should have. This did not came from me, but this is actually a prescription to us teachers to uphold certain beliefs. Of course, spiritual beliefs varies for every individual. So, of course, as teachers, we should embody what we want to be, what we want our students to be. It says in the Happiness Project of Gretchen Rubin is that we should look for a spiritual persona wherein we can actually relate into and we can share to other people. Okay, allowing us to have a good mindset. Next is exhibit deep knowledge and understanding across the discipline. This teacher is able to acquire new knowledge, skills, and values, has the ability to learn, relearn, and unlearn. As educators, we are not only required to have cognitive abilities, okay, that's knowledge, but we are also encouraged to have skills. There are skills that are required to us, like psychomotor, and of course, effectively values. But most importantly, as educators, we have to know how to learn because being an educator, being a teacher is, of course, a forever learning. Okay, and if deems necessary for us to relearn some concepts, we have to relearn. And again, knowledge here is actually revolutionary. There are in science, there's what we call an intellectual revolution or scientific revolution. There are times that what scientific knowledge that existed before is no longer accepted now, and what we might know now may not be accepted in the future, because that's how science is. No? Researchers rise to either support or refute another existing scientific principle. So we have to unlearn those stuffs. As teachers, again, we must be ready to learn, relearn, and unlearn certain concepts if deems necessary. Okay. Next is recognize own strength with humility. These teachers sets high goals for him or herself, but remains humble and willing to share success, confident in performing tasks, but never considers to be above others. Always take note that no one is above or below anyone. We are all equal. As teachers, we are actually encouraged to see our students as our fellow learners as well. We are also learners as teachers. We have to be amazed every time we educate our students. I am actually a science teacher, and every time I educate my students, I actually feel amazed every time we do experiments as well. So we as teachers should know what's our strength and what's our weaknesses, and we have to respect the specialization of others. Say for example, a language teacher that specializes languages, and as a science teacher I should respect his or her specialization. We have to submit on the specialization of fellow teachers because after all, we are not master of everything. Okay. But of course, as teachers, we should have a little bit of knowledge of different fields. That's why we have general education, because these are general knowledge that we should know. Now again, we must consider our strength. We must know our strength, but also recognize our weaknesses and perseveres in challenging situation. This is quite tough. This teacher is calm in the midst of chaos, remains steadfast under pressure, do not easily give up and adjust different situations. Midst of chaos in a way wherein teachers, we are always jump packed with a lot of deadlines, and as teachers we must be ready. We must be um, flexible whenever there's a deadline, there's an activity that we have to do, graduation or a program in school that we have to do. We have to act accordingly. We have to be a little bit calm but still be pressured. Okay. I won't say that if you can be perfectly calm, that's good. But of course, having a little bit of pressure would also help you move as a teacher. Now, we don't give up easily as teachers. That's why, as teachers, we do not give up on our students every time that they don't understand a certain concept that you're teaching. That's why we still try to reteach that for them to, to catch up with that knowledge. Okay, and then demonstrates natural action to work together with others. In the 21st century education, again, teachers are no longer the sole source of knowledge. We are facilitators. Hence, we must collaborate and cooperate with fellow teachers as well. These teacher volunteers tasks to others, willing to share and extend help, accepts responsibilities, and tolerant to others. We must be ready when there's a call for us as teachers, okay? And we must be ready to collaborate and cooperate with other teachers, because we cannot actually survive the teaching life in the 21st century by our own selves, even if it's just your special field of specialization. Right now, um, discipline-based instruction is no longer that encouraged. We also, in the 21st century education, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and even transdisciplinary courses or transdisciplinary researches, courses and subjects are now being offered, like in studying the globalization. There's a scientific side. Okay, I'm sorry about that. There was an internet connectivity problem. Okay, so as you can see, as I was telling a while ago, that a teacher should be tolerant, okay, and be ready to cooperate and collaborate with other teachers. Okay. So, as I was telling a while ago, there is a personal qualities that are needed for teachers, but there's also a professional competencies that we must fulfill as teachers. So, I'm going to tell you several professional competencies and what the teacher does. So, number one, first things first is we must abide by the code of ethics for the profession. So these teacher practices the rule of conduct of being a teacher, all indicated in the code of ethics. So as teachers, we should be familiar. We do not actually encourage to memorize it, but if you can actually memorize it. But if not, might as well, just live the code of ethics and know what to do and what not to do as a teacher. Master the subject matter to be taught. This teacher masters what the subject matter to be taught. When we're talking about masters, we're not just talking about the mastery of an existing content, but we must update ourselves as educators to keep ourselves updated on the current trends on your content or on your specialization. Say, for example, in the sciences, are there any new trends on the scientific world? So we should be aware of that. Um, Next is updates oneself on educational trends, policies, and curricula. So teachers keeps abreast with educational trends, policies, and curricula by attending graduate school, seminars, trainings, and workshops. As teachers, we are not expected to be stagnated by our existing knowledge. We must be transformative and progressive. We must respond to the needs of the society because we are drivers of the curriculum. So, hence, we must be aware of the trends and policies and curriculums in the 21st century education. Attending grad school would be one, but of course, seminars and trainings and workshops are also helpful for us educators. Okay, to be updated. This also allows us to cooperate and collaborate with fellow educators in the country and also internationally to do benchmarking if possible. Builds a support network with parents and community. This teacher engages cooperation of parents and other stakeholders of education to educate the learners. There's what we call a PTA, Parents Teachers Association, which envisions to support, of course, and to help our dear students, and sorry, and we must cooperate as teachers to the parents and to the community, communicate what is needed for the learners to grow. Okay, and of course, not just the parents, but also all other stakeholders of the education. Um, Next is demonstrates knowledge, understanding of the characteristics and needs of diverse learners. These teachers have substantial knowledge of the characteristics and the needs of the learners. That is why needs assessment is very important for us to determine what to address to these learners. And of course, when we are teaching, we have to be inclusive. We are facing different learners from different households that came from diverse culture, possibly diverse culture. And we must be sensitive about it and we must be knowledgeable about it. Of course, this is one of the demands. This is one of the heaviest demands of becoming a teacher on its professional competency is that we must know the needs of our learners. Um, Seeing that we are not only handling 30 students, we are handling different students in different classes. Plans and implements curriculum responsively. These teacher plans, prepares, implements, and innovates day-to-day curriculum with a view in mind that learners will learn. Teachers, we are planners and implementers and evaluators of the curriculum. Now, we can actually implement the curriculum uh, basing on our philosophies. I'll discuss that on the latter episodes, but latter episode. But we must also consider the philosophy of the school and the curriculum. Now, sometimes as teachers, you'd actually see the arrangement of the plan um, quite different on your preference. You can actually deviate a little bit as long as the objective is attained. But of course, as much as possible, we want to follow what is written, the written curriculum and be used as the taught curriculum. But if deems necessary to deviate as long as the objective is attained, so be it. So next is use teaching methods to facilitate effective learning. This teacher practices different ways of teaching approaches which are appropriate to the learners and the subject matter. Different subject matters or different contents requires different techniques, different teaching approaches, and a good teacher can actually do this, can actually utilize different techniques of teaching just to educate the learners. Okay. Next is design, select, and utilizes appropriate assessment and strategies. Assessment strategies and tools. This teacher designs, selects, and uses appropriate assessment tools for, as, and off learning. In the previous lessons, we had an overview discussion for the formative assessments, for the assessment for and assessment as learning. And for the summative assessment, we also talked about assessment of learning. Now, there is an appropriateness, okay? A good teacher knows when and how to use an appropriate assessment tool. Do not just give assessment tools because he or she just feels it. Okay, next is provide safe, secure, fair physical and psychological environment that fosters learning. These teacher arranges and manages the classroom to provide safe, secure psychological environment that supports and encourages learning. As teachers, when the learners enter our classroom or enters the class, the student, as I have mentioned in the previous lessons, that the student must feel he or she is safe and welcome. Okay, because inside the classroom, again, education is a great equalizer. If they enter the classroom, the student must feel that there is no social strata, there is no social discrimination or any forms of discrimination inside the classroom. That's what we want as much as possible. And we want to promote fair physical and psychological environment to foster their learning. Physical in a way, we have a good ventilation, good lighting, uh, good visual and audio. Okay. So, as I was saying, we want a good ventilation, a good lighting in our class discussions, okay, for the students to easily appreciate the teaching better. Okay. Serves beyond the call of duty. This teacher does the task and works even beyond the official time when needed. Actually, the difficult part of becoming a teacher is not the teaching itself. You know, teaching is just 20%. Like the instruction, sorry, the instructional part is just 20%. The preparation and post of the lecture is the most challenging. Like preparing your lesson and afterwards is checking papers. These are quite tough, tough part of the job of being a teacher, and we must be true to our duty as teachers. And if given ancillary jobs, we can accept it, um, as long as it's for the school and for the students. But then again, this still depends on you as a teacher. But the teaching job is not an in and out job. When you log in and when you log out, being a teacher doesn't end when you log out. Sometimes other teachers had to take their jobs at home, check their papers at home, and preparation happens at home. But now, all is at home, like prepping, checking, and even the instructions is conducted at home. So being a teacher is actually very, very, very tough. So my teacher, my hero. So why is this phrase very important? This is not just known in the Philippines, but also internationally because, again, being a teacher requires a lot. It requires you to be a hero, actually, and there's a personal quality that are needed and professional competencies that has to be sufficed. So the demand is great to become a teacher, especially to become a professional teacher. We're not just talking about we are not just talking about acquiring a license to become a licensed professional teacher, but the teaching profession itself. It's a great demand. It's a great demand of the society, and it also gives us a lot of demand. Now, I want to share this quote. Now, the teaching is the noblest profession, and we all know that. But the nobility of being a teacher is not by inheritance, but is earned. Being a teacher is noble, okay? Being a good educator is noble. It's a nobility that is not inherited. We're not royal family, but it's a nobility that is earned through hard work and earnest and truth service to education, to foster learning to our learners. So that's the things that I want to share because I really want to treat all my teachers in primary years until primary level until my graduate program as my heroes as well. So to everyone who's listening, I hope you learned a lot. Thank you very much for listening. And please take note that being a teacher is not just does not only require us to be intellectual, but also must have the personal qualities and professional competencies. And teaching is not entirely about this, but about this. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and God be with you all.